Welcome back to another episode of the Thunderstock Show. I'm your host, Ross Stockdale, Fractional CMO, here to have a conversation with Carla Higham about the EOS life. It's still that season. It's the season of the EOS life. It's valuable brainstorms and stories to enhance your life, liberty, pursuit of property by hearing how Carla does what she does. Carla, how is it on the West Coast? I know you're on East Coast time. How are you doing today?
Well, first of all, Ross, I just want to say thank you so much for inviting me on the podcast. It's really so nice to connect with you and just talk everything EOS. In terms of the West Coast, it's been very nice. The weather's been perfect. So we are gearing up for the summer. How are things on your end?
I'm going to the beach today, so it'll be a beautiful day, and there will be no rain on the East Coast, unlike the last 6 weeks of all rain. So
you're fully welcoming
good.
summer. That's great.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I wanna say, right now being on the West Coast on East Coast time, I know people do it, but are you from the West Coast? Are you born and raised in the area? Like, give me a little bit about background and like what was it like growing up? Obviously, I could joke and say, "Oh, did you always want to be running on EOS?" But for a lot of people, that wasn't a thing until recently. So, what did you always want to be when you grew up, and where'd you grow up? What was it like growing up?
Yes. So the first thing that I would tell you is I feel like I've had EOS integrated into my system ever since I was a little girl. And I just didn't know that it was EOS, only because I was raised by a mom who wanted everything in order all the time. So I carry that throughout my childhood. But kidding aside, I grew up actually in Southeast Asia. I grew up in the Philippines. So I was born and raised there, but all of my family lived in the United States. So I am a West Coast girl by association, and I started out my career actually as a publicist for multinational companies like Starbucks, Crocs, and my initial responsibilities were turning their campaigns into something that would be reflective of the Southeast Asian culture. And so I brought them into Vietnam, Singapore, and of course the Philippines. And it was also our group that introduced sort of like influencer marketing in the Southeast Asian space. And throughout the years, I have joined many agencies, but it was only the last 5 years that I started running my own digital marketing company with 3 other partners at that time. And that was really when I really got into just organizing. EOS is all about understanding the vision and executing. And I feel like having worked with a lot of agencies in the past, there's a lot of emphasis on vision, on where you want to be, but there's not a lot of emphasis on the ability to scale. And I think to me, that was very exciting. And going back to my childhood, I was always like that. Like this is funny, Ross, but I dreamt of becoming an actress when I was younger, inspired by Lizzie McGuire, Hilary Duff. But in my head, it wasn't just becoming one. It was like, how do I get there? What's my roadmap at like 11 years old? Of course, it never happened, but I've always shown like execution skills or organization skills. And so that's a little bit about me.
BHAG of being Lizzie McGuire. Love that.
Exactly. That was definitely my childhood.
So it's really interesting. I need to dig deeper on introducing influencer marketing to Southeast Asia.
Yes.
What did that look like? Can you tell me a story about that? How'd that come to be?
So what happened then was I was working with an agency at that time. And I remember that at that time, when you were a publicist, you only could go to major dailies, like the TV and broadcast, newspaper, print, and they were extremely expensive because that was the only way you could advertise or do a publicity run. And so at that time, my boss thought that because one of our clients didn't have a lot of budget, she said, why don't you try the tapping into bloggers at that time, fashion bloggers on like Tumblr and, just running their own blog space. And they were like, just try to invite them to one event and see if people would actually respond to it. This was in the very early days of Instagram as well. So everything was like on a blog. And so we did it and we kept inviting them to the events. And actually that was when we just developed relationships with them. And actually most of them are still attending fashion shows all over the world from that one opportunity with that client of ours. So it really started as something that we just wanted to try because we wanted to be creative with a budget. And we found an audience for them. We realized as we were planning that, there's actually an audience for these influencers. of course, at that time we called them bloggers. And it's nice to see the space grow, and nice to see some of them still doing what they do and have transitioned into TikTok and YouTube.
I definitely want to dive a little deeper
Of course.
into it, because it, this was, I mean, I think we talked offline. This was around like
Yes.
15-ish years ago,
Yes.
around when you were at that stage. And I can still remember what digital marketing was like.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because it feels like I used to say every 10 years, like marketing was completely different. Then they get into it and it's like every
2 years,
3 or 5 years. And now it's
every 6 months.
it's getting much faster. But
Yeah.
what are some of the commonalities? I don't want to say the differences, right? Because we could say TikTokification of social media with the For You page. And we could say the prevalence of different social platforms, like how Meta's evolved. That's great. But like, what are the things that remain tried and true when it comes to the little guy, maybe the person that doesn't have the huge budget, like making an impact and getting their voice out there?
From 2007, when I started being a publicist, to now, I tell my clients the same thing. It's all about being authentic. It's all about storytelling. At the end of the day, no matter what your platform is, people just want to find people that they can connect with. And I think because of the many trends in digital marketing, the audience has also become more discerning. So the faker you are, less your audience would respond to you. So no matter what the platform, if you're speaking from your heart and not creating this persona that's so different from who you are in real life, the more people can relate to you. And I think that's true across any platforms. And I think that would stay even as we change how digital marketing is. And I know that's coming soon too.
I totally agree. And I want to bring back to, that's like what's stayed the same. But one of the key things that's been a differentiator, at least in how the deployment and delivery of content gets in front of people, that's for the better, to your point of authenticity, I think, is the TikTokification phenomenon.
Yes.
Where you have interest-based versus like
just a random. Yeah.
Just the major players, right? Like if you had the budget, you got more reach, or if you had the offline, like the Shaquille O'Neal, for example, or the major cultural Lizzie McGuire, right? Like now Carla at 15, 16 who wants to go and act can have a TikTok account and do it and still get some of the share.
Exactly.
It's not all going to
the big
people
guys
with zillions of followers and zillions of exorbitant amounts of budget.
Exactly.
I think that's cool.
I think that's amazing. And this morning, actually, I was just going through Sabrina Carpenter's Instagram, and I just saw that she was just reposting TikTok dances of very candid dancers who are just dancing to her new song. And I remember there was a time maybe 6 years ago, where everything was staged and everything had to have a lighting and you had to have the perfect outfit. But the videos that she was reposting, it was all just like people in their living room, messy living rooms. They didn't even clean up their living rooms, and just dancing to the song. And I feel like you said, TikTok and those 30-second quick videos is just, it captures where you are in the moment. And I think it's nice because that's what, I mean, you probably remember the first few years of Facebook where we were posting everything unfiltered. And that was a lot of fun.
I'll tell you what, you're right. Like I was one of the early adopters of Facebook because it came out 2006, 2007-ish.
Yeah.
And like all the other college students, like, we're going to go on Facebook now or whatever. And I remember talking to a friend of mine in school, and he said something, he goes, that post is meant for Twitter, not Facebook. And I'm like,
yeah.
At the time, I was like, oh, why are you hating? Like, what do you mean? And then I look back, I'm like, you're so right. Like, I can't believe I didn't. You're so right. Like, that's a tweet. That's not a Facebook post.
Exactly. And do you remember the albums that we used to have of like our nights out, and it's like 50 pictures of the same thing? And it's like, we definitely put a number on our digital cameras for sure.
We didn't think that. I mean, there's probably some limitation. I can't remember with like the iOS storage, like out like the cloud, like you can only have so many. Like, oh, we'll just store it on Facebook. It's like our outsourced camera roll.
It was our Google Drive for a time.
Yeah, it was our Google Drive. It's funny to look back and laugh at that though, because it's just like, at the time it was groundbreaking, and I think
we were so cool.
It was so cool. Like, I don't know, the evolution's neat. One thing I want to tell you a quick story of PR
course.
on
Yes.
TikTok that you'll probably love, because it sounds like it, is the thesis of what you were doing for other people. Is I had a client and we were looking at doing different ways to do content, like how to grow our video content, whether that was the YouTube or TikTok, whatever channel, didn't matter. And we're like, okay, let's look at some influencers. And one person from kind of local to the client, pretty local, had amassed like a 470,000 person following. Wow. Just cell phone like this, just doing skits, dancing, just joking, just making some skit comedy.
Yeah.
And I reached out to him and I talked to his booking agent, and they were like, whoa, this is crazy. Like, well, we'd love to work with you. And like, this is awesome. We're so excited. And I was like, you're a huge deal.
Yeah.
And you're like excited.
Yeah.
And I remember we did that campaign. It was a pretty low cost, and we doubled the lead flow for that, like the week after.
That's great engagement.
And I'm like, and they called me later, and I was like, oh, what's up? Like, why are you calling? What's the problem? Like, oh, how did it go? Like, we're really nervous with the TikTok ban around there. Like, we just want to make sure you got a good ROI. I was like, dude, this result. And they were like relieved and happy. And I'm like, I want to support people like you.
Yes.
That are just real, and you really care about the result, and it's a good deal for both of us.
And they're grateful. There's just a sense of gratitude that you're working.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought you'd get a kick out of the story.
I do. I love small content creators that hit it big, and they're like, what? This is happening to me? So I hope we have more of that.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about, social media marketing and PR and like the story there, but you help organizations with structure, and you help them with organizing organizations, and you help them with communication and strategy and all different kinds of things that aren't just marketing. At what point in your career did that light bulb come up where it's like, hey, I like marketing, but I like helping business organizations more, and you kind of got a higher viewpoint on doing it? Like, how'd that come about?
When I was a publicist in a bigger agency, and this was around 2015. And then I suddenly switched up to account management, client services, because I just wanted the challenge. I feel like to continue to grow into this marketing career, I had to understand more than PR. And so I took that theory with me as I moved to LA in 2017. And that's when I realized that obviously LA and the United States is a lot bigger than Manila, where everything was just in one place. And so I needed to be able to have skills that were more refined than just being a publicist and a client services director. So what I did was, and then I joined, and then after a few years of trying it out, because I was joining smaller companies, so we didn't necessarily have a big team to do everything for me. So that kind of started, that started like me understanding that everything's connected with each other. Marketing is connected to operations. Marketing still has to rely on a budget from finance. So I saw that in order for a campaign to run successfully, I have to be able to have everyone locked in to our idea. And I have to have everyone understand that just because I'm in marketing doesn't mean I don't affect everything else in the company. And so I brought this thought into my head as I started that digital agency with our 3 partners. And I realized that as clients came in, you would see where the balls were dropping, and you would see like, okay, they want a marketing strategy, but us internally within the agency, balls were dropping because we couldn't get from vision to execution. And then that's when it all clicked for me, like, you know what? Nothing would be successful if the foundation isn't set. In marketing, you have to be nimble and you have to be fast. But the only way you can do that is if you have strong structures in place. It's like having a kid, right? They have to have a good foundation before they can go out into the world. And that's when I just fell in love with it. It's like you can solve every problem that you face in your marketing agency or in your marketing department if you have a strong process in place. So that to me is like a science that's like, I'm so in love with, like, where did we break down? How can we backtrack, and how can we avoid it? So it's something that I fell in love with recently. I mean,
you mentioned something earlier, and I want to frame PR almost in like a different light, because you got comfortable and used to doing marketing for the public, right? To try and influence public opinion or, garner attention. But then you also realize that like the same skills applied, you need to do for your internal stakeholders too.
Exactly.
Like, how do we communicate the idea clearly? How do we influence change or direct direction and vision?
Yes.
So it's a pretty cool way to look at like the transferable skills of marketing. And I think oftentimes people think of marketing as just lead gen. It's like, no, it's a lot more than that.
It's a lot more than that. It's we're telling a story and everyone has to buy in internally or else we won't be rowing in the same direction, which is a very EOS term too.
Well, I wanted to hear a story about this, talking about change management.
Yeah.
One of the things that was a highlight, you told me about was transitioning a for-profit to a nonprofit.
Yes.
Can you tell me about, without, you don't need to go in specifics, but like, what was the process like and what did you learn coming through it?
Actually, the funny thing is before we transitioned from a for-profit to a nonprofit, we had to merge a digital agency that I was just talking about with a health and wellness media company. So as you can imagine, the digital agency, which was about 3 years old at that time with just 4 partners and a part-time workforce, we were pretty much like, we were just kind of winging it, even if we had structures in place. It's very different. The digital marketing space is very different. And then you merge with a health and wellness company, media company, and it's very structured. There's an editorial team, there's a process, there's approvals. And so that to me was like bringing two different worlds together and merging them and creating a structure where you celebrate both excitement from the digital marketing team and structure from the editorial, media agency. And so that to me was the first big challenge because these are very different personalities. One thrives in like data and structure and approvals, while the other thrives in vision and getting things done fast. So that was the first like challenge. And once we've overcome that, just because of our business model of the media health and wellness company, we had to think of other ways that we could serve our clients better. And so we transitioned into a nonprofit structure. And to be honest, it wasn't that difficult for us to do so because we were already closely working with like state funded projects. And the team, I'm so grateful that our team is very agile. And because of the processes that we've set, they trust the vision that we have. And so when we told them that we're moving from for-profit to nonprofit, and it's all about visibility. It's all about, this is where we're at. This is why we're doing this. It wasn't something that was thrown to the team. Nobody was blindsided. And I think because there was so much trust, we were able to transition without like big issues. It was more of like, instead of like the team being like, oh, I'm so worried, it's more of like, how can we help, transition? And
isn't it crazy what can happen when you have a healthy team?
Yes.
When you have a healthy team, seemingly difficult, like when you know your why, you can overcome almost any how.
I agree. And if people feel like they're taken care of, they just give you their 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maximizing human potential, going back to EOS, is all about
trust.
Like well, there's a lot of trust involved, and how do you develop trust, and how do you get commitment and accountability, all those things. But like you said, the hierarchy of needs pyramid, it's like, hey, we're gonna make you feel taken care of, so you can be self-actualized and be the best you.
Agree. Yes.
And I think not to speak broad strokes, but a lot of businesses that maybe aren't purpose or mission driven, or at least purpose conscious, they might think the purpose is to like just be profitable. Yes, be profitable. Yes, make money. Yes, serve your constituents. But like a nonprofit is less concerned with the net profit percentage because it's it's a nonprofit. You have to reallocate your funds and use them. So then there's probably less, how do I say, maybe the words friction or less tension around the mission because it's just mission focused. Is that accurate?
That is very accurate. And I've also learned just working with nonprofits too, there's a bigger heart into driving goals. Like it's like I've been in corporate where the goal was to hit a number and that feels good. We've hit a number. I feel great. But when you hit a number in the nonprofit world and you see the lives that you're changing, that significantly just takes you to a whole other level because it's not about you anymore. And the ripple effect that you create from helping, let's say, one family or one kid, it goes for generations. And that's something that people in our team specifically take so much pride in. That's what drives them every single day, and personally what drives me. And it's just both settings are incredible, but they hit you different for sure.
I never thought of it this way until you said that, but I look at the sense of hitting a number in a for-profit business,
Yeah.
oftentimes with relief.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
phew,
we got it
thank
done.
goodness.
Yes, we're
thank
okay.
goodness we did that. But if you help somebody, whether it's, it could be a nonprofit, but it could be even for-profit, where it's like, hey, we really nailed it on the mission. One of the things that I have as a personal mission for myself and my business is to help 100 small business owners, founders, or entrepreneurs to achieve financial freedom. And then I had a couple of times where I've done that, and I've got many more to go to get to 100, but I had that, and it's like the feeling of gratitude where you help somebody who felt like they were going to be working till they were done with the world, like they're going to die at their desk to retire. And then they call you when they get back from a 2-week vacation with their grandkids at Disney World. It's like that feeling feels way better with lasting power than like my number for the quarter. Whoop-de-doo.
That is so true. That is so true. And you're making memories not just for them, but look, their grandkids get to share this moment with them. And, it's just something that goes on and on. So it's amazing what you're doing.
And what you're doing, and I promise we're going to get to the EOS transition, but this is more important.
Yes.
You want to help solve for, if I understand this right, operational clarity is great, but emotional clarity is something you want to solve for. Yes. Can you explain,
of course,
like why that is and how you came up with that mantra?
How we came up, well, you know what? When I was doing EOS, when I was starting with it and studying it, it makes so much sense on paper. Like, yes, this is great. And it feels like one of those things where you have this process and you're like, everyone's going to fall in love with it because they're going to see it clearly. And so I came from my EOS certification class and go into the real world, and you realize it's so great. But the biggest challenge of an integrator or an implementer really is getting everyone's buy-in and trust. And I just got so lucky because I have an implementer who would just sit me down and say, Carla, at the end of the day, no matter what happens, you're still dealing with people, and everyone who goes into the office has something that they're taking with them from their lives outside of the office. And so when they resist you on something, like whether it's a change management structure or it's a process or it's a new way of doing things, you're not fighting with someone who doesn't like to do it. You're fighting with someone who has reasons why. So it's not about, I don't want another management system. It's not because they don't like the software. It's because there's a thinking behind it that's like, maybe it's making them feel insecure because it might take over their job one day. So my implementer at that time, his name's Tom, he would always tell me, get to the root cause, because at the end of the day, they're resisting you, not because they don't like you or they don't like what we're doing. It's because there's something inside of them that's forcing them that there's insecurities, there's questions about job security, or even something totally unrelated that happened at home that's causing them to just short circuit everywhere else. And which is why one-on-ones that have no agenda sometimes are so good, at least for me, because you get to see the whole picture instead of just what they're bringing to the 9 to 5. And that's where that came from.
I've never thought of the IDS tool from the EOS toolbox in terms of like solving for emotional chaos. Right? Because the point of IDS is to get to the root cause, and then we'll discuss it, and then we'll figure out how to, either sit with the feelings so they're less painful and they're more tolerable, or change our plan so that we can, get your stakeholder buy-in to make it agreeable, or we'll change how you're thinking about it. And maybe you're thinking about it and you're overwhelmed, you're fearful, but there's nothing to worry about.
Yes.
But that's real commitment. That's real accountability.
That's accountability, and you have to have a certain level of trust. Like, sometimes it's just two leaders who are thinking so wrongly about each other that if you just get them in the room and hash it out, it's not always pretty. But if they get into the room and really get to that, and they're like, so you weren't thinking of it this way. It's like when you see them get that clarity, like, oh, so this person is actually not working against me. It's just a miscommunication. So it's like magic when you see that happen. And it's really one of the best parts of the job, at least for me.
I want, if you could talk with your 8-year-old self, and I also do the 80-year-old self, like the Solomon's paradox where it's derived from. But what would you say? And you said the answer was your sensitivity is your strength. Explain from that story is why your sensitivity can be your strength, because you can get to the goal with the whole team on board to get emotional clarity.
Yes.
But like, can you tell me more about the answer of like your sensitivity is your strength? I think it's a really unique answer.
Thank you so much. And just you mirroring that back to me, it made me tear up a little, because when I was 8 or when I was younger, I would always scan the room and try to understand everyone in the room. And a therapist on Instagram would say that's a trauma response, but I think it could be. But I think for me, I've always loved to read.
Oh.
I've always loved to read. I've always loved to watch movies. And the thing is, when you're reading, the author makes you see everyone in the room from one person's perspective. And I think I took that with me as a young girl. And so in the classroom, when my classmates are all like just doing things out of a whim, I would always be the one like sitting back and trying to see like, well, how did this other classmate respond to what this other person said? How is she feeling about that? And when you're sensitive and you haven't had, well, in my case, the therapy or the tools to process that, it can be a bit overwhelming, especially when you're 8 years old and like, I'm feeling what everyone's feeling, it's a lot. But once you learn how to recalibrate that, understand that it's not wrong for me to be sensitive and it's not wrong for me to be empathetic, I just have to channel it the right way. It does become a superpower, because most of the time people would never say what they're feeling. But if you're in tune, you would pick up the signs and
you can read between the lines, so to speak. Emotional intelligence is such a high value skill now because we have all these tools and softwares that can help you to do things. And it's great. Like, we're now having the space, I think, as a corporate culture to focus on emotional intelligence.
We're so lucky,
but like, what you described at a young age, like, you can take an IQ test at 8 and it's pretty consistent with your cognitive intelligence, unless something happens, right? I don't know, like you get an injury, whatever. But let's presume that the same holds true for your emotional intelligence. What you told me indicates you had a high emotional intelligence. What does EQ mean to you, and how can people like either identify and harness it as a superpower, or maybe like identify gap, like maybe they have like naturally low EQ and get better at it? Like, how can people develop EQ as a skill? What does it look like?
For me, I think I often ask myself that, like, how did I get to this? But I think it has a lot to do, but I think I'd like to credit reading at an early age for it, because when you read, you meet so many characters, you identify with a lot of characters, but as you get older, of course, there's less time for that. And I'm no expert, but in terms of heightening your emotional awareness, I think it's really just sitting with everything. Like when you're in a meeting and someone pisses you off, the number one thing that you should ask yourself is like, well, why? Like, don't just say that I'm mad. Like, you have to like, well, what is it triggering in me? Because once you do it with yourself and you practice it with yourself, you don't run away from it. I posted a quote on Instagram the other day, and it's like, healing is not running away from it. You can't eat it away. You can't drink it away. You can't work, you can't exercise your way out of it. You have to sit with it and feel it. And once you allow yourself to do that, you unintentionally allow everyone else to do that. Once you give space to yourself, you give everyone else the space to be themselves, and you're not quick to judge. You're not quick to be critical.
You enter the danger of confronting painful emotions.
Yes.
Right? Using EOS terms, but like that really is, if you were to pick one thing, and look, you're telling me what's worked for you, and I'm like, you sat down with books and you got to feel the feelings and experience the experiences of a lot of other people and put yourself in their shoes. And then when it was time for you to deal with your own feelings, you just kind of like took the same book reading process, which is say, I'm going to sit in a place with my heart rate under control. And look at it as if you were the reader of your own story. Is that
that is the perfect way to describe it. Yes. It all starts with us. If we allow ourselves to be where we are, we'll be less critical of others and more understanding, and not jump into conclusions. So that's really what
I
it is.
love a quote. I talked with somebody earlier about this, and it was a completely different context. It was like, we often hate what we don't understand.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, well, then
That's
to
true.
reduce hate, you have to increase understand.
Yes, yes. You don't take away the quick judgment. And this is something that I credit back to Tom. It's like, stop judging right away. Take a step back and understand. And
And it
you'll
goes
get
back
there.
to your philosophy on PR and marketing too,
Yeah,
which
you're
was
so
like,
good
let's
at that.
try
Yeah,
something and then
yeah,
reflect and understand. You know, and I
yeah.
agree. I think marketing is an art and a science, but I think dealing with
Yes,
people is an art and a science. Like,
I
you can
love it.
get tools to deal with
Yeah, if
people, but if you don't like
your heart's not in it.
express
Yeah,
yourself, yeah,
yeah. I love it. I
that's
love
cool.
studying. I love studying people. I often tell my friends that if I probably didn't take marketing, I'll probably be a psychologist or something like that. It's
I
fun.
mean, how similar are they though?
They are very similar. We're like
I
workplace
think
psychologists. That's what I think.
I have to tell you a great story. I have a
Of
very dear
course.
friend who I need to pick up the phone and call soon. It's been too long, and she is in the marketing space, right? Like,
Yeah.
so, I'm not going to tell you blow up her spot. But she's in the marketing space. She's like executive at a pretty decent sized firm,
Yeah.
and she tells me, she goes, you know, if I ever exit or I ever make a career change, I might get into therapy because I'm already doing it. I just don't have the credential.
That's true. We lack the credentials. We have all the experience for sure. Yeah, yeah, she's right.
I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
I did.
One, I want
Thank you.
I'm going to mirror your
Yeah.
answer to the 80-year-old self part because it's
Woo.
like equally as important.
Yeah.
And you said, "Thank you for staying courageous. I hope I made you proud with how I used my time, my voice, and heart."
Mm-hmm.
And I think like that's what, as someone who is a father of a very sensitive and amazing daughter,
Yes.
I hope that like that's what she wants to hear too, right? It's like,
yeah,
you know, you don't worry about making me proud or whatever anyone else proud. Make yourself proud. Use your voice, even though it's very loud voice, which I'm proud. I am
that
proud
is
of.
amazing. Yes.
You know, like,
Those are great
so
things.
how did you come up with that answer, and what would you tell other people, you know, about that answer? Like, why is it powerful to you?
You know, I think when growing up, especially when you're a woman, I hope it changes for the next generation. I hope it changes for your daughter. We're always taught to be perfect, right? We always are taught to be in a box because when you're young, it's because you have to make your parents proud. You have to, especially me, I grew up in the Philippines, which is radically a conservative country. There's certain expectations on how you have to behave in order to be deemed worthy. And then once you're out of your parents' house, you have to behave a certain way so that you can make your partner proud or you can make your boss proud. And with all these voices, and then when you become a mom, it's like you have to make your kids proud of you. And with all these voices, right? It's like, well, what do I want? What am I hiding in myself? Or what am I not going after because it doesn't tick the boxes for everyone else around me? And sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is follow what it is that's in your heart. That's the most courageous thing. But I think the second most courageous thing is looking at yourself and understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, and being okay with it. And understanding that I may never reach a certain level of perfection or, that's required of me by one of those boxes that we just talked about. But I hope I'm kind to myself, because if I am, then I'm doing moves not out of insecurity, but out of strength. And if I do that, then I have no difficulty in helping other people. Because I feel like if I'm not courageous in accepting myself, I'd always have that wall when I deal with other people and I won't give them my 100%. So it's kind of like I have to do it for myself so I can do it for others, not the other way around. So that's kind of how that answer came about.
Well, I'm gonna use an EOS term again.
Of course. I love how you did that.
To summarize it, you would tell your 8-year-old self, "Hey, your sensitivity to danger is a strength."
Yeah.
So and your end of the day conversation would be like, "Thank you for entering the danger." It's just like both ends of the spectrum, and
Exactly.
I love that
journey.
because
Yeah.
the point of EOS saying "end of the danger" isn't for external affirmation.
No.
It's for internal validation that you can be somebody that can ignite courage in others.
Exactly. Yes, that is it. And sometimes the most courageous thing someone can do within an organization is trust a person that they just know through work. And it takes great courage to be vulnerable with these people that you work with.
I love that quote. The most courageous thing you can do sometimes is trust someone. It's
Especially
so
this-
anti. It's such a. I'm going to sit on that for a little bit. If I can unpack it? It's like,
yeah.
there's this ethos, especially post World War II,
Yep.
where to be like from a man's perspective,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you can't have feelings.
Yep.
You have to just get the mission done, and
Yes.
you can't. You don't need to ask for help. You can do it all yourself. Pick yourself by your bootstraps, and it's like, you know what's a lot easier to do? Admit when you need help and ask for it.
Yes.
Whether that's with, it doesn't matter if that's like therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying yes to that, but like with work, like,
Yeah.
if I could give you a quick 30-second story.
Of course.
I have been working on a project for my Q2 rock. Set it like end of March, started April 1st.
Mm-hmm.
I finally got it done today, and it just took 2 hours with asking for help from the right person.
That's amazing.
But I spent
I know.
like 95% of the quarter trying to do it myself and screw it up.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah. So anyway, if anything in this conversation, just know that your quote there hit me in a positive way, where it's like, hey Ross, look at the output. You should just trust that you could ask for help.
Yes. And I think we've also been taught to like always look over our shoulder because someone's out to get us. I spent the first 10 to 15 years of my career just like thinking someone's out to get me, and it's never worked out. You know what? Just trust that everything's going to work out for you. Whether or not someone's out to get you, put your heart out there and you'll be protected one way or another. It always
It's more useful to feel protective.
Yes.
To believe you're protected than it is useful to feel like you're constantly under attack.
Reacting. Exactly. It's a fight or flight that I no longer want to be part of.
Yeah. Now the burning question I have to get off my chest is, how did you get introduced to EOS? Like, what's that?
Okay.
Give me the transition, the before and after the EOS experience for you.
Yeah. So the EOS experience. So again, I referenced Tom, who I owe a lot of my EOS knowledge to. He was, as we merged the two companies that I was discussing earlier, he's a big believer of EOS. He's an implementer. So throughout our times engaging with each other prior to the two companies merging, he's already told me so much about EOS and how it brings people together. So I would always be interested in like, tell me more, because I love it. And then he sent out the traction books to everyone in the company just to get ready for EOS. And I read it and I took notes. And I was like, this is amazing. And so I took the class, and then I started with Tom. Well, the great thing with Tom is, as I was taking the class, he was explaining to me like all the tools, all the terms, how it works. Like he was sharing his experiences with me. And so I was kind of like, as I was in class, I was also getting like real life input from him. And so it was kind of like a simultaneous thing that I was taking the classes, but also working on it in real time. And that's sort of how it just evolved. I feel like when I was doing EOS, I feel like it was something that I've been doing for a long time. It just called to me. So that's kind of how it was a very easy thing to adapt into my life, I would say.
And you're a certified EOS rocket fuel integrator.
Yes.
Which is such an interesting thing, because I've talked to fractional integrators, and even plenty of implementers, but a certified EOS integrator is I would say one of the ways you can use your EOS training or boot camp or whatever you want to call it, to get like really in the weeds and like get like intimately helping maybe not 15 people at a time, but like one or two or a couple. Is that is an accurate reflection of what that role looks like?
That is an accurate reflection, but at the same time, I've also worked with companies that are not fully ready yet to go on to EOS. So I love that EOS gives me a foundation, because some companies would be just like, well, we just want to hire you as a fractional operations director, not EOS. But of course, because it's in my veins, so to speak, it's like, that's always the framing that I come from. And so it's just been pretty much like our whole conversation, it's been foundational to what I do daily.
I'm so excited for this part of the show.
Yes.
I did warn you about this.
Thank you for warning me. Yes.
It's the part where it's leave a question, ask a question.
Okay.
And because I don't think I'm going to be able to top your like that, like putting a pin on it, like that there. And it was great answer. But more importantly is, what question do you have for the next guest
Okay.
without knowing who they are? It could be about anything.
So this week I wrote an article about ghost ships. Ghost ships are basically in our lives. This was a quote by Cheryl Strayed. And basically in our lives, we come to a point where we choose road A or road B, and the life that we didn't choose becomes our ghost ship. It's the ship that didn't take us home. And so my question for your next guest is, what was the ghost ship, whether in your career or in your life, that has impacted you today? I hope your next guest doesn't get so frustrated with that question, but I find it so interesting.
I need to sit with that for a little bit.
I know,
because
it's a lot.
an interesting.
It's a lot.
It's a good question. I
Thank
mean,
you.
what was the ghost ship that you've taken in your career or in your life that has impacted you today?
Yes.
And the first question I have is, we say ghost ship is almost like the road not traveled.
Yes,
is that right?
It's the road not traveled. It's the yes. It's the no that maybe you're still thinking of. Should you have said yes? In simplistic terms, it's like, was my, for me to be able to be in the marriage that I'm in, I had to say no to someone. And so that person has become my ghost ship, right? And sometimes as you get older, you're like, well, what if I took that ghost ship and the person that I'm married with is my ghost ship in another lifetime? So it's also because I love alternate timelines, and I love the thought of, like, so it's like, what ghost ship are you? Do you regret it, or do you think it ultimately led you to a better life?
You love reading and presumably fiction, and you love alternate timelines.
Yes.
I'm not going to answer that question because I want to save it for a rainy day. I can't wait.
Yeah. Okay, of course.
But are you familiar with the butterfly effect?
Yes.
Or
yes, I love it.
It seems like the butterfly effect is kind of what we're talking about with the ghost ship.
A little, but I think with the ghost ship, it's more of very intended, or
it's not the multiplicative, like infinite branches of reality.
No, it's like,
give me the fork in the road.
I made a clear decision, and this is the ghost ship. It's either I made a clear decision, or in reference to marriage again, it's like someone broke my heart, and that was not a ghost ship that was not a ship that I went on. So I went this way, but what if he did it, And that's a very simplistic way to do it. So, it just a little, it flames the nostalgia in me, like, what if?
Yeah.
It's nice to sit with.
Now, this is such a great question for you because the guest obviously didn't know.
Yeah.
And it's all about, stepping in the danger, being open and honest. What's one thing that you've never shared about yourself publicly that you're willing to share now?
Oh, this is hard only because I share everything publicly. I have no transparency at all. But you know what? To answer that question, I'm just going to tie it with the ghost ship, I guess. I'm turning 37 and I've never shared this publicly, only with close friends. I'm turning 37 in 2 weeks. And up until recently, I've always done everything by the book. I've always been I've always loved following rules. And so what I'd love to share publicly is that this time I've reached a point in my life where I am constantly dismantling everything that I've been taught about life, about love, about work, and trying to construct it in a way that would make the 80-year-old version of me proud. I'm going after my happiness in a way that doesn't just follow the rules, but kind of making rules up as I go along. So it's very personal to share publicly, but I feel like because I'm so open in all areas of my life, that was the best answer I could give you.
That's so cool.
Thank you.
You're like, hey, I'm at a stage where I'm going to unlearn rules that don't serve me for my future self.
Yes. And maybe that's the biggest gift I could give myself at 37 is just following that joy where it takes me.
No, I love that. And I think everyone could benefit from shedding beliefs that don't serve them anymore.
Yes.
So
we're getting out of boxes in 2025.
I'm going to ask you a way less deep question, but still important question.
Of course, yeah.
Is for those who are listening that follow along, that love the insights and the stories, where can people find you and get connected and reach out?
Yes. So the easiest way to find me is my Instagram. So it's Carla Higham, which Ross could probably just link somewhere, because in my Instagram, it links everything to my personal column that I've been writing since 2009. It has my work email, LinkedIn, everything. So that's where they can find me.
Excellent. Everyone listening, I hope that we met the expectation of sharing some stories and insights to help you achieve, not just financial success, but also personal and get you to where you want to be. So if we did that and we delivered on that promise, my only ask is share it with a friend that might benefit. Carla, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much. This is so fun. Thank you. I appreciate it.